friends, and welcome to the Viva La Vulva podcast. I am your guest host today, Lily Wang from MedAmour, and we're doing something really special in this edition. We are interviewing and featuring the owner of Viva La Vulva podcast, Miss Dr. Cara Quant.
Hey, it's so weird to be a guest on the podcast.
On your own
thank
show.
You, Lily, for hosting.
We reversed roles for this episode, and I was excited about this because even though we've been working together for almost 2 years together, which has been so fun, and you've had so many guests appear on your show, I think a lot of listeners and viewers, including myself, always want to know more about who is Dr. Cara and where you come from, what are your roots in history, and how did the whole show come about? So everyone welcome a full round of applause welcoming Dr. Cara on her own show. Yay! And so Dr. Cara, tell us about you.
Okay, so where do I start? When I was 1 year old? No. I grew up in Inglewood, California, and I am one of 5, so I have one sister and one older sister and 3 younger brothers. So I'm the middle child. I think there's some middle child within me, middle child instincts and things within me. I knew I wanted to be in medical school. I knew I wanted to be a doctor in high school, actually. And the story was I had an anatomy teacher named Mrs. King, and Mrs. King was an amazing teacher, anatomy teacher. She was really innovative on how we learned the different parts of the body. She actually made songs for us, and she recorded it at this time it was a tape, and so we had tapes of the recordings of different anatomy parts. Towards the end of the class, she brought in a cadaver. And so which is a dead body for anyone that doesn't know. Yeah. And we were able to dissect and learn from this cadaver. And mind blowing.
What grade was this?
This was maybe 10th or 11th grade.
Amazing. I don't know many schools that would roll in a cadaver, dead body into a classroom.
No, it was very unique. And I feel like our class was the only class, because I think that, I don't know if she got in trouble, but I think that there was a lot of people that were opposed to the cadaver experience. And so I remember talking to, classes below me, asking had this continued, and it didn't continue. So I was one of the first, and I guess only, to have a cadaver experience at the school.
How cool and unique, interesting. Not saying that you are so many years ago, but I'm sure years ago too. Do you even remember permission forms and?
Yeah, no, we definitely needed permission forms. Okay. And there are some, yes, we definitely needed parents' permission. It wasn't just anyone that as in the class can do it. But it was exciting. And I remember there were some students that were I don't want to be close to it, get me away from it. There were some people that didn't have, their parents didn't sign to give them consent to do it. So there was some issues, but the people that did do it, I think it was a great experience. And we dissected the whole body. We did different presentations on the different body parts. I remember doing a presentation on the spine.
Was there a smell to it?
Oh, there definitely was. Yeah, the formaldehyde. Yeah, the formaldehyde smell. And this is actually really disgusting, but I'm going to say it anyway. In medical school, when we had cadaver lab, and we would have to do this at least once a week. And this was before I was a vegetarian, but I craved meat afterwards. I would always go to Chipotle or something like that after cadaver lab, because I was I really want some steak or something. It was
Carnivorous instinct came out.
yeah, I guess so. But yeah, like that was the first time that I was exposed to a cadaver, and it definitely wasn't the last time. So that's kind of how I got excited about being a doctor, got excited about medicine, and my path kind of started from there. Yeah. So like fast forward to um, me getting into medical school. Um, I attended UCLA, the Drew program. So it's a combination of UCLA plus Charles Drew. And the Charles Drew program is like is training doctors to work in underrepresented areas.
Awesome.
And so there was, so yeah, in medical school is where I kind of got interest in women's health, and yeah, I got interested in women's health. And I remember thinking to myself, like, oh, there is, we are able to, like, we're learning about women's health, you know, periods and different things like that, but we're not learning about sex or problems with sex. I remember we learned a lot about erectile dysfunction. We learned about, you know, different things having to do with the male sexuality, but like when it came to the female parts, it was very different. There wasn't that much information. And the same having to do with residency is we didn't get that information. I eventually got into internal medicine residency. And internal medicine, for anyone that doesn't know, is having to do with everything internal. I generally see patients from 18 and up. And internal medicine doctors can either be hospitalists or like admit people to the hospital, or they can work in primary care settings like a clinic, seeing patients with high blood pressure, diabetes, things like that. But we all see female patients, and that information still wasn't given. So I was like, I enjoy women's health. I want to be an advocate for women, especially their sexuality, in terms of enjoying sex. And so that's kind of where Viva La Vulva got started. And I know you didn't ask me that, but that was a long, drawn out story about getting to Viva La Vulva.
That's why we're here. And in your time as being a doctor and practicing, how much time were you practicing and seeing patients? And then just kind of give us a little bit of that background and how much of the clinic and residencies that you were still getting your doctorate, but then realizing where is all the education and information for the female sexuality. So then that, I think that's what spawned you to create Viva La Vulva.
Yes. Yeah, that was what started it. Is I didn't see that information. I didn't see the teaching on it. I didn't see the education in it in medical school and in residency. So I was like, I mean, I'm a woman. I want to get some information. I want to get information that is credible. I want to get it, you know, like from not just anybody, but someone that has some background in it or just has some education on it. And so that's when I started attending conferences like ISHWISH, or the International Society of the Study of Women's Sexual Health. And that's where I met you, Lily. And so, yeah, it was, you know, just just educating myself on it, because I didn't get that in my training.
And that's you as a medical professional looking for more education. But for just the average person who doesn't have that access or resource to going to ISHWISH or different conferences or having that medical physician mindset, it's amazing. And we're so thankful. That's why you've created a space called Viva La Vulva so that we can get some of this information. But just for some of our viewers and maybe new listeners, tell us, what is the Viva La Vulva podcast and what are your goals?
Yeah, so Viva La Vulva, the podcast came out of Viva La Vulva, the art exhibit. So the art exhibit was back in March of 2018. And I brought a couple people together. Actually, not more than a couple people, but it was like doctors and sex therapists and pelvic floor physical therapists and artists. And we did an art exhibit on the female form, kind of what we have behind me, the female form. And then next to each piece was some information about women's sexual health. So like one of the things that I commonly talk about on the podcast is, did you know that there's 8,000 nerve endings in the clitoris? So like that was some information that was on the wall. And then it was a 6-week long exhibit. So throughout the 6 weeks, we had different panels where I brought in OBGYNs and family medicine doctors and sex therapists. And we had conversations around women's sexual health. Like, how can women receive more pleasure? What's the like barriers to getting access to care or getting quality access? I mean, there were just so many things that were discussed. And so the podcast came out of that, me wanting to continue to have conversations on a regular basis with different people. And it's not just like medical providers. I've had a pussy oracle on the podcast. I've had artists on the podcast. I've had, pelvic floor physical therapists. I've had just a wide range of people talking about the goodness of the vulva, talking about how educating about it and how we can have a better relationship with our vulva for the vulva owners out there, and also just giving information to the general public about what vulva owners go through. Periods, I had a period coach on. So it's all different types of information. And I would say the goal is to, provide more information to everyone about the vulva.
Sounds so cool. What a fun event and exhibition. And for those who don't know, the one in 2019 was in San Francisco. And this
2020.
Oh my gosh, I was this last year. I'm sorry. Pandemic years has been like throwing it off.
COVID. I think because of COVID, everyone is like, I don't know where. Yeah, it's like pre-COVID and post, but not post.
So, right. It was January 2020. The best part of pandemic year kickoff was the Viva La Vulva podcast, which kicked off great in San Francisco, so successful, and everyone will just have to stay tuned to see what happens, if there's going to be one next year, early winter, spring. We'll find out.
I'm thinking about it right now. I think it'll probably be like a virtual thing, just depending on how the pandemic goes for the U.S. And I'm thinking it's going to be more of a virtual than an in-person thing, but I have some cool ideas up my sleeve.
I know this will be really interesting just to like document. We can like look back on this 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and see, look how far we've come.
Look how far we've come. Yes. And we'll probably look at this time and be like, oh my God, I remember when, we all had to quarantine and we all had to like stay inside, and those are the good old days. I don't know if we're gonna think about that, but yeah,
definitely.
We'll definitely in our memory, like definitely imprinted in our memory.
Yeah. So besides supporting with listening to the podcast and your YouTube channel, how can folks support Viva La Vulva podcast?
Well, you can go to the Viva La Vulva website at Viva La Vulva LA. You do have to have that LA part to it, .org. And I'll put it in the description, or we'll put it in the description. You can go there if you would like. You can sign up for our email list. We'll be rolling out more emails about just information, promoting the podcast more. So that would be the best way. You can also go onto our Instagram at Viva La Vulva LA, so the same handle, or follow us on Facebook. Same one.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dr. Cara. I think everyone was just really excited just to get to know who the voice and faces behind the screen and microphone to your podcast and episodes covering such great topics on women's sexual health and wellness. And thank you for allowing us to have this opportunity.
Well, thank you, Lily, for being the guest host on the podcast and for interviewing me. I think sometimes it is helpful to know my story and to get to know me a little bit more, because what I've been doing is getting to know other people and how they are helping vulva owners to access their power more. So I am appreciative, and I thank you.
Of course, we loved hearing your story. So thank you. And thank you, folks, to listening to the Viva La Vulva podcast. And we'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.